if you saw this video, if this video was suggested to you, the algorithms have basically determined that you're not normal, but that's okay because you're in good company because I'm not normal either. That's why I made this presentation to help you identify what a normie is, who a normie is. Are you a normie? If you're worried, I don't know why. A lot of my friends have been asking me, like, what is a normie? They want me to define it. They want me to qualify it. I don't know why, but they're worried that they're normies. But I'm sorry, but if you're friends with me, you're probably not a normie. So this is the question if you're not sure if you're a normie or not, and you're worried about it. But sorry, but if you're here, you're probably not. For the purpose of this video, I'll be talking about normies, how to identify them, what are their distinct characteristics. I'll briefly talk about non-normies, and then a little bit about ambi-normies as well. So I just want to caveat, like, there's nothing wrong with being a normie, okay? Following the Pareto principle, like, normies mainstream by definition. So, like, by definition, most people are normies, and there's nothing wrong with that. I made this channel for non-normies to find my tribe because so much of the world is designed for normies, and we just don't think or move or live or care the same way that normies do. We care the way that non-normies do. And so that's why I'm making this channel. But by definition, normie means normal, average, or mainstream person. And yeah, nothing wrong with it. Most people are normies. Normies help run the world, etc., etc. But they always want more than this definition because they're like, who exactly? Because, you know, we can get all philosophical here, but like, what is normal anyway? It's all a spectrum, right? A multi 3D, 4D, 5D, I don't know, dimensional spectrum. But I agree. But obviously, every person, life is subjective. Every person has a threshold for this person is a normie, and me as a non-normie, it's hard for me to relate to this person because they are past this threshold and they are in normie territory. So normie characteristics. I thought about this a long time, but at the core of it, which I hope helps my friends understand, just a caveat here, I know we live in a post-colonial, hegemonic, capitalist patriarchy and all that. That's not lost on me, but just for the purpose of this video, I'm going to scope it, talk about normieism, normie characteristics. Anyway, so at the core of normie characteristics, I thought about this a lot, but essentially, they engage with life at a very surface level. And that leads them, by default, to accept their defaults that are subscribed or prescribed to them or propagandized towards them by the post-colonial, hegemonic, capitalist patriarchy. And they don't really question it or feel uncomfortable with it because, again, they're engaging with life at a more surface level. And I hope that doesn't offend anyone. You're probably not a normie if you're watching this, but if you don't send this to normies, but if you send it to normies and you're a normie watching this, I don't mean to offend you, but I mean, if you disagree, let me know. I'm trying to understand y'all. So anyway, so what does that mean in terms of the way they live? So it means that they choose to study or work on things that are mainstream, that they felt like society told them is the right way to succeed. Again, nothing wrong with that. Of course, that means they chase status symbols that are mainstream. There are academics that argue that we all chase some form of status symbol. Even if you're in some niche community, every community has some form of status and hierarchy and things that you care about. But I digress. The way that normies connect is like one of the main reasons why I find it extremely difficult to speak with normies or become friends with them. And so the way that they engage with their family and friends, of course, is the default, very unquestioning, very non-confrontational. They have friends based on circumstance or situation. I recently had an autism evaluation and they asked me if any of my friends don't share my interests. And that question absolutely baffled me. I know if you're a non-normie and you're watching this, you're thinking, how are people friends with those that they have zero shared interests with? But that's what normies do, because they kind of go along with the flow. They're friends with the people where they grew up in the same town, or their same school, same major, same job, but there's that lack of intention, and they might not actually have any shared interests, and there might just be proximity and exposure that leads to friends. And don't get me wrong, that is how you become friends with someone, period. But if you're neurodivergent, you have interests, and you kind of need to share at least one interest with someone if you want to be friends with them. And of course, that overlaps with dating, right? Because you should be friends with your partner, obviously. And so the default today, I could go to a whole thing about this, but the default for dating today, just unquestioningly just accepting like online dating is a thing, especially people who are younger who don't know anything otherwise. They're just like born into this digital world and just accepting the status quo without wanting to change it or do anything about it or wanting to do it differently. Of course, it shows up in the way that they consume, the media that they consume, and like, their favorite movie is like, I don't know, Transformers. It's pretty normie coded. And even the food they consume, something I noticed about normies is that they like very like mid food. So I would say like when in the media and the food and everything they consume, their taste is like kind of lacking. Which leads me to my next point in the way that they create. I don't think normies are very creative. I think there's a reason why so many creatives out there, like artists and stuff, are neurodivergent. Like so many entrepreneurs, so many performers, look into it. There's a lot of neurodivergent people there. The next is, of course, the way that they express is another thing why I find it difficult to talk to them because they like small talk. If you're neurodivergent, if you have ADHD, you probably hate small talk. Probably gives you physical pain. I know it does for me. Like I've learned to navigate, but it's hard. And of course, the way they dress, Exhibit A, like the finance bro thing, and like I know that's like one like sub-tribe in normie culture, but still like kind of just unquestioningly accepting it rather than trying to figure out who you are as an individual and developing your own style. And I'm not saying like, oh, all non-normies know their own style. I'm just saying like these are kind of like the common characteristics. Like it's not a prescription here. It's just giving you a sense of idea of like who's a normie and who's not. And then lastly, experience. Like basically, again, everything's surface level. So their engagement level is going to be at a more surface level onto things. So they could go to an interesting place, but then if you're a non-normie talking to a normie and they're talking about their time in freaking Ibiza, I don't know, or they're talking about their time in a really cool place like Australia, it kind of bores you because as a non-normie, you kind of need depth and something deeper, like deeper engagement, and they don't really have that. They kind of just go to like skiing because it's a thing that people do, and they have, as a result, generic hobbies that their friends do, or they don't have hobbies. A lot of my experiences in talking with them, they don't really have hobbies, or their hobbies are just like mainstream stuff that they engage with on a surface level. For example, they are into football. If they're like an American man, a lot of them I've met are into American football, but then they don't even engage with it that deeply. Like they'll watch the game, but like watch the game, but like do other stuff while watching. And then they'll like watch movies, but like they don't really read essays about the analysis of the movies or care about them that deeply. They kind of just like watch. It's just like mindless consumption. Well, I guess that sounds offensive, but like as a non-normie, a neurodivergent person, like to me it seems like they are not engaging with this with the depth that I would need to be satisfied as someone with ADHD. Okay, so who are the non-normies, aka abnormies? This is a really interesting study. I'll try to put it in the description, but a lot of people on the autistic spectrum have a higher sense of justice. Same with a lot of people who have ADHD have a stronger sense of justice. Greta Thunberg is an example. She's on the autistic spectrum, and she's obviously very passionate and cares about social issues a lot, right? Like she's the person I think of thought of first when I think of people like this. But they're ultimately like very curious, and as a result, like questioning authority, which could get them into trouble. Of course, arrested like Greta, and of course, in school, getting in trouble there, and because they're curious and questioning. Because they're curious, they're therefore questioning, and I just feel like if you're a curious person, what is the end result other than becoming passionate about something? I don't know. I don't know if they're directly causal, but I feel like at the very least they're correlated. Non-normies, neurodivergent people are very passionate, the ones that I know and I've met a lot. And there's a whole thing, the diagnosis, if they have special interests, right? So it's not engagement with things in the same way. Like there are neurodivergents that are into American football, but they engage with it differently. It's like, are you moneyballing it? I'm not saying you have to be that extreme, but like it's like moneyball engagement, or like you're not even paying attention really engagement, or like maybe you're just doing DraftKings and you're gambling engagement, which to me that's surface level. You're just doing the lizard brain addiction thing. Anyway, as a result of this, questioning authority, being really curious, kind of maybe a little too much passionate, this makes them less palatable to normies. So if you've gotten feedback about that or glean that from your experiences with normies, that's usually a sign that you're non-normie, aka I like to also call us abnormies. I don't know. And a symptom that you're a non-normie is that you're kind of exhausted by these normie standards. If you hate small talk, that's a pretty good sign. A lot of us are hypersensitive in at least one of our senses. For a lot of people, it's sound, touch. For me, it's smell, like to an extreme level. If there's hyperacusis for the nose, that's what I have. Yeah, so because the world, unfortunately, following the 80-20 principle is not efficient to design for every individual, and we live in a capitalist society, so it's all about efficiency and productivity, right? So you're not really living in a world that was designed for you or meant for you in a way. The last part I want to talk about are ambi-normies. And it's kind of like ambiverts, right? There's introvert, extrovert, and ambiverts. And I'm friends with ambiverts. I think it's really cool. So they're kind of in the middle part of the spectrum because just for visual purposes, it's a 2D spectrum in this. I think it's more than that, more dimensions, but in the 2D spectrum, they're kind of in the middle. And so they can talk and be friends with and even marry normies and or non-normies. And yeah, they have like friend groups in both. It's something, I think it's really cool. It's something that I noticed. As a non-normie, I don't know how they do it. Can't stand talking to some normies. It's like talking to a wall for me, but love that for them. Ambi-normies, let's go. They're kind of like the bridge between the two extremes. And of course, we're all on the spectrum here. So life is a spectrum, right? So life is a spectrum of light. Anyway, that's my video. Hope that answers your question. Bye.